Okay, section 7.4, rational exponents. The learning goals for this section is you should be able to simplify expressions with rational exponents, and you should be able to convert to and from radical form. What are rational exponents? They're simply put powers written as fractions. The numerator is the power on the inside. So the numerator, which is the top of our fraction, comes from the power on the inside. So in this example, when there's no power, we know it's to the first. The denominator is your index, or your root. So in this case, we had the square root, which is why our denominator is 2. So again, the numerator, which is the top of our fraction, comes from the power inside, and the denominator comes from your root. So in this example, y was to the first power, and that's why the top of the fraction is 1. We are getting the cube root, and that is y. 3 is our denominator. So the cube root of y to the first power is also can be written as y to the 1/3 power. So for example 1, we have the square root of x. So again, we're going to start with x as our base. And if it was to the first power here, then 1 is going to be at the top of our fraction. And because we're getting the square root of it, 2 is going to be the denominator. So the square root of x can also be written as x to the 1/2 power. Here we have the square root of y to the 3rd power. So again, y is our base. And for our fraction, 3 was the power on the inside. So 3 is the numerator, or the top of our fraction. We were getting the square root, so that's the bottom. So it's y to the 3/2 power. Example 3, they want the cube root of x squared. Again, the same process. We're talking about x, and since the power on the inside was 2, the top of the fraction is 2. Since we were getting the cube root, the bottom of the fraction is 3. So the cube root of x squared equals x to the 2/3 power. Example 4. Now we give you the fractional power, so y to the 3/4. And we need to turn it into a rational with a radical. So we're starting with y. If the numerator was 3, then that 3 should stick with it on the inside. Put that around it. Because we had a 4 in our denominator, 4 goes here in our index. So y to the 3/4 power equals the 4th root of y to the 3rd. Example 5, same thing. I'm going to have x. Since 2 was on the top of my fraction, 2 is staying with it. Since 3 was the bottom of my fraction, 3 goes into the root.